Well, mate, when I look around the world, I'm reminded of Sean O'Casey and Joxer and the captain, is the whole world's in a terrible state of chassis. It is. Everywhere you look, there's a instability and tension and a general sense of the disintegration, or I think the disintegration of any consensus between the two major parties in the United States, of course. Disintegration right across Europe. I mean, while we're talking about Brexit and so on here, it seems to me that the European Union is in danger of fragmenting. Sort of, I mean, and there's going to be hell to pay sort of over the migrant crisis, and that's not going to go away. We've got 1,400 kilometres of barbed wire down the eastern flank of the European Union. And people are going to keep coming in unceasing millions, sort of freeing from poverty and war. So that's going to be a major problem in the future. All of these things are very difficult, and my own belief is that underlying them there is a general crisis, economic crisis, a global crisis of capitalism, due to the falling rate of profit and all the rest of it. And that's not going to go away anytime soon. If you look at the strongest country in the world, obviously the United States, we see incoherence at the centre now, started with the election of Donald Trump, and you also see a fragmented and a useless opposition, and there's parallels with that sort of with both Britain sort of and Ireland, of course, when the Democratic Party is split wide open, or bitterness and bile are amazing. The only resistance that you can see coming sort of is from people on the streets. There's literally millions of women in the United States and across the world, and many men too, but the big demonstrations I think is highly significant about global politics, the fact that there was women in their great numbers who took the lead in that. And it's going to be fascinating to see how that works out. I think the most constructive thing that people like me can do, or that anybody can do, is to support the grassroots resistance to what Trump represents, and but many others like Theresa May, like the whole establishment in the European Union, to what they represent. Because lobbying opposition, lobbying mainstream parties to stand up against the right at the moment seems to me to be a useless strategy to adopt, insofar as you're going to get opposition politicians or politicians to the left of centre anywhere. It's where we're going to get them to take a robust stand. It's going to be in response to what is happening below. It'll take all that pressure, and that's already beginning to happen, of course, in the United States. You can see some of the Democratic Party people who were extremely moderate, if that's a phrase, beginning to find their voice. And the reason over the last few days that some have begun to find their voice is precisely there's a million women on the streets of Washington. It's like the old story. There go the people, sort of, I'm their leader, so I better follow them. And I think that's happening in lots of... So that's why I repose my hopes at the minute. In the mass of the people, there's no political party anywhere in Europe, sort of, that I would say, well, that's the one who's got it right. The only people who've got it right are the people. No, I don't think a Brexit need be a disaster. I mean, I took the line, and people around me took the line, sort of in or out, the fight goes on, but we wanted to vote against Europe too. I have no time for the European Union, I have to say. I believe that it's thoroughly undemocratic. I believe that a very idealised view of the European Union is promoted in Ireland. The European Union is utterly irreformable. There's actually no mechanism within the rules of the European Union for getting rid of the Commission, which is the single most powerful body. Maybe the European Central Bank. The bankers are powerful everywhere behind the scenes. But if you look at what the European Union did to Greece last year, when the Greek people voted by a large majority, a bigger majority against austerity than was achieved by anybody sort of in relation to Brexit in Scotland, in Northern Ireland, a bigger majority than Theresa May got to leave sort of in England. The Greek people voted by a bigger majority, any of them, to reject the EU plans, economic plans for the country. Within 24 hours of the vote coming in, leaders of the EU were telling the Greek people, sorry, we're paying no attention. And Juncker, sort of, who was Mario Draghi, that is then of the European Central Bank, said at the time, if the Greek people think that a majority vote from their country is going to change the rules, they are living in a dream world. Now, we can't have that, and you can't have people being locked out. People complain about Donald Trump's wall, which he alleges that he's going to build to keep Mexican migrants out. But what's the difference between that? In principle, what's the difference between that and building hundreds of kilometres of barbed wire fences to keep migrants out of Europe? And yet the two don't seem to be widely prepared. We've also got the rules of the European Union, which, for example, imposed on the Republic of Ireland. You forget sort of that the austerity of the last few years was imposed by the European Union, the so-called Troika. It came over to, mark the Irish government's homework, and tell them sort of to buck up their ideas and do what they're told. So it's not just Greece, sort of it's out. And the austerity sort of being imposed is going to be imposed on Italy, for example, but there's economic, a basket case, Italy really, and a banking basket case, and loads of other places around Europe. So I believe that there's going to be rising resentment against from within the European Union, against the European Union itself. Nobody knows how this thing is going to work out. If Theresa May were to go ahead and say, right, sort of, we're simply leaving and that's that, all the indications are that there'll be an explosion of anger in Scotland, which could carry Scotland out of the Union. If that happens, if Scotland leaves, where does that leave Northern Ireland? Where does that leave the people the Ulster Scots in Northern Ireland? So I think that there is going to be, the constitutional arrangements are being thrown in the air. We'll see where they fall, but we'll also see how we should react to that. So with Brexit, it's not over. It's not over, and we come back all the time to our basic idea that whether we're in Europe or not, the best thing that ordinary people can do is to organise themselves to advance their interests and defend their interests, and not to be looking to any particular party sort of in this situation to stand up for them. Stand up for ourselves. Do it yourself. As Jerry Rubin once said, the American hippie leader, just do it. I know that Nike stole the slogan, sort of thing, but it was a good slogan at the time. Just do it. Well, I have to say, sort of, there's been a bit of, I suppose, a cultural shock to me, sort of having expressed my politics, well, in two places, on the streets and within the trade union movement, mainly, sort of, for many, many years, to find myself in the Parliament. I found it very, very frustrating at first. I found it difficult to manoeuvre through all the elaborate procedures and protocols and precedents and all the rest of it, sort of the govern activity, sort of in Stormont. So I find it very difficult, to be at ease with that. But as time went on, I mean, towards the end, in fact, I had only begun to be entirely at ease, sort of, in Stormont when they pulled the whole place down. So it's but I mean, I would hope that I made some impact there as well, sort of once I found my feet a little bit. I think they knew I was there, and that Jerry Carroll, the people before profit MLA, I think they knew we were there, and I think we did have an effect. In fact, I know we had an effect. I know we had an effect sort of on the SDLP and Sinn Féin in particular, sort of that we were pushing all the way with in relation to the sanctions against Arlene Foster, for example, the sort of in the light of the RHI Renewable Heat Initiative, a scheme, the Renewable Heat Incentive scheme. So I know we stiffened the other parties because we made it clear within minutes of this thing erupting sort of in the hall at Stormont, sort of that this can't stand. Either this is sorted out or the Assembly isn't worth preserving. If we hadn't taken that view, I don't believe for a moment that Sinn Féin would have eventually have come round to the view that they did. So, we did have an effect, and we introduced, I don't think anybody else, in fact I know that nobody else introduced at Stormont ever, so the whole question of the Thatcherite anti-union laws, which are now, people don't even know that these laws are the Assembly's laws, and the Assembly's anti-union laws, and yet until Jerry Carroll and myself got up and opposed that and produced a bill to abolish sort of the most egregious examples of the anti-union laws, until we did that, there hadn't been at any time ever a proposal in the Assembly to do something about this, and that's because trade union rights and trade union politics don't figure sort of in the perspectives of any of the other parties. Well, my fears for Derry in the next generation is economic devastation. I think that for all the chat about regenerating the Northwest and so forth, we are losing jobs. We're losing manufacturing jobs hand over fist. The way things are going, we're going to have no manufacturing base in Derry. And that's when you look at the history of Derry and the way in which sort of it was mainly the shirt factories and women workers, of course, which sustained it. But it was manufacturing industry sort of which kept Derry going. At the minute, we're losing manufacturing jobs, and also under the cutbacks and the Fresh Start Agreement, as it's called, I mean, we're losing public sector jobs sort of in large numbers, with the executive having borrowed hundreds of millions of pounds to fund redundancies, to fund job destruction and all that sort of. So I think that the economic future for young people in Derry, the outlook as things stand, is very poor indeed, sort of. And I think that there are many parents all over Derry whose main worry at the moment probably is what's going to happen to their children. Are they going to get jobs in Derry? Are the jobs they get in Derry going to be dignified jobs, or are they going to have to emigrate as so many generations did before? And increasingly, if they're going to have to emigrate, to where? Where are they going to emigrate to, where prospects are going to be any brighter? It's hard to see that at the moment. So I think there is a bad time coming, and I do believe that in that situation, whatever happens as a result of United Kingdom leaving the European Union, whatever happens to the European Union generally, or anything else, I think that the best option, best strategy for people on the street, ordinary people, for people in the bottom half of society, I think their best strategy is to get organised and prepared to defend themselves, fight for every job, fight every cut, and make it clear. And for example, people talk about there might be a hard border, we might have customs posts again, sort of out on the road between Derry to Buncrana. Well, and there's a lot of pleading to Theresa May and so forth, and to the Dublin government, please don't let this happen. And so I'm demanding that be put in as part of the negotiation demands. At least out of country, what are we asking the people to do? I think Theresa May should be told, that business about customs posts and the Derry-Donegal border, forget it. We're not going to have it. You know, sort of, we'll use people power or any other power. We're simply not having it. And these days, every political party sort of in this island, north and south, is against customs posts in our body. Every single one. Democratic Unionist Party, Traditional Unionist Voice, Ulster Unionists, the lot. They are all against it. So the British government's going to come over here, are they, and put a border across our country after all that we've come through in the last 100 years, if you like? So you think that's going to be allowed? I can guarantee you, insofar as we can foresee anything in the future, there is not going to be. There are not going to be customs posts. If there are, we'll be to blame for it, as well as everybody else. I got it to Letterkenny Road there. I think what are we going to do? They get nobody in Ireland to staff customs posts. Nobody. So what are we going to do? Draft in hundreds of people so to be customs officers in Ireland to stand on the border and stop cars? No, they are not, because they'll get nobody to do it. And if they do get people to do it, they'll have to have so many guards to protect the customs posts that we'll be right back to the sort of levels of British security forces we had 30 years ago. So let's tell them no. We used to be very good at that. Ulster says no. There's a good slogan. 9 County Ulster said no. So I think we should go with that.